Gary?
He's getting stuff wrapped up.
Okay.
You're the vice chair.
Oh, well, give it to me. Let me show it. Show it to me.
Are we going out of closed meeting?
We're going out of closed meeting. Move to go out of closed meeting with PSA.
Okay.
Then you get to certify after you get out of closed session.
Are you just making a motion to go out?
Yeah, we're going to make a motion as soon as you pull up the agenda.
No, say make a motion to go out.
And then we'll do
I
certification.
think Chris made the motion on the, just for the end of PSA though.
Yeah.
Go out of closed meeting. I'll second.
All right, so Chris and
That's a closed meeting
Matt.
for what we got. It's not,
Okay.
now we got to go to
Not roll call, but
PSA
all ayes.
closed meeting.
Oh, come on.
5 ayes.
Aye.
All right, 5-0.
All right, need a motion to certify.
I need to put that Annette and Mr. Creed were not present.
Move to certify.
You're in the chamber.
I move to certify.
Okay, hold on.
But I'm going to read the certification.
All right, certify Jim. Yeah.
I'll second.
You got Jim under pressure. He can't get it easy.
Second, okay. Or do we have all ayes to do that?
Yes.
All right, 5-0. 5-0, and Gary and Annette absent.
Okay, now,
Adjourn.
we're out of closed meeting and let's see if we can certify.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now closed meeting. Whereas the PSA Board of Montgomery County has convened a closed meeting on this date pursuant to the affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, whereas Section 2.2-3711 of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by the board or the authority that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now, whereas be it resolved that the Public Service Authority Board of Montgomery County, Virginia hereby certifies that to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempt from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in a closed meeting, to which this is identified in the motion conveying the closed meeting or here discussed or considered by the board. Do a pure motion to certification.
Didn't we already do that?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we already did that and come out.
Okay, so we're,
I think we voted to come out, and then did we voted for certification?
Yeah,
We need to vote for certification.
now we need to
We
vote
need
for
to vote
certification.
If it's
it's going to
right.
be the same vote.
Okay.
Okay, 5-0.
I have a motion that we
Okay.
Motion.
certify.
Okay.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, wait. All right, Chris did the second, and Jim did the motion. Okay,
Yeah.
Matt,
Yeah,
adjourn.
yeah, and then motion to adjourn the Public
So
Service
moved.
Authority.
Second. So moved. Aye.
Aye.
All right, wait a minute. Who did the second?
Matt seconded aye.
Oh,
Motion.
Now we need
yeah.
to go into, now we need to,
You go to
Oh,
closed
yeah,
meeting.
now we need to go into,
fluid event.
need to call this meeting in the public of the Board of Supervisors. And first item on the agenda is to go into closed meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded, and we are going to close meeting, section 2.2-3711. No, I guess that's all I gotta do is go into closed meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
You gotta talk about what we're talking about, closed meeting.
We are gonna speak about 2.2-3711, existing business prospect. -3 is Mid-County and Old Parsons Fork school site, talking about public property. And -1 is the Community Services Board, Library Board, New River Community College Board, Planning Commission, and Planning District Commission.
Need a vote?
Roll call, please.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Tubbs?
Aye.
Mr. Gabriel?
Aye.
Chair Lewis?
Aye.
Guess we're not gonna close
I don't know how many times I have to do this before I get it right. We're going to be a few minutes
That's how many kids to take.
My apologies for getting started so late this evening, but a little bit of our business ran over. So the next item on the agenda is to go out of closed meeting. Do I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Ms. Perkins?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Tuck?
Aye.
Mr. Gabriel?
Aye.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Chair Lewis?
Aye.
7 ayes.
The next item is to certification of closed meeting, whereas the Board of Supervisors of Montgomery County has convened in a closed meeting on this date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and whereas Section 2.2-3711 of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by the board that such a closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Supervisors of Montgomery County, Virginia hereby certifies that to the best of each member's knowledge, only the public business matters lawfully exempted from the open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in the closed meeting to which this certification resolution applies, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion conveying the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the board. Do I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Tuck?
Aye.
Mr. Gabriel?
Aye.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Ms. Perkins?
Aye.
Chair Lewis?
Aye.
7 ayes.
And the next item is our invocation, and I will ask everybody to please rise and take a moment of silence considering what's before us. And following that, we will have our Pledge of Allegiance led by our County Administrator.
Let us pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much.
All right. The next item on the agenda is our public hearing. And the first item in our public hearing, the following public hearing was advertised pursuant to law in the Burghs section of the Roanoke Times on April 28th and May the 5th. The Board of Supervisors intend to dispose of the following properties, and that is Old Elliston Lafayette School, former Plum Creek Queen Box site, and former Texas Hollow Park. And who's going to lead that?
This is a public hearing anytime the county contemplates the sale or disposition of publicly owned property. We have to have a public hearing to see if there are any public comments regarding that issue. Tonight's public hearing is regarding these 3 parcels that the board chair mentioned. The county has determined that these properties are no longer needed for any public use by the county, and we're considering the disposition of those properties. So by statute, we're required to hold a hearing to see if there's any comment from the public on this.
Yeah, are there anybody in the audience who would wish to speak to this particular public hearing? If so, please come forward and state your name and address, and you have 5 minutes. Seeing no one, we'll close this public hearing. Thank you. All right, the next item is our delegation, and the first person on that will be Mr. David Clark with the Virginia Department of Transportation. Good evening, Mr. Clark.
Good evening. A couple updates for the board on secondary system, we are with some better weather now. We're getting ready to get back started on Craigs Creek Road. We got a couple more miles of that. Did some of it last fall. Actually, with some good weather last fall, we were able to get about a mile of it done. We have 2 more miles to go. So we'll be regrading that just a little bit from the damage it naturally gets over winter with traffic and everything, and then getting back in and putting a surface treatment on that. Also, we got bids back on Yellow Sulphur Road. We're doing about 6/10 of a mile of Yellow Sulphur Road. That's part of a revenue sharing project. Hasn't been awarded yet. If all goes well, we will award that and be able to work on that this summer. I believe the completion date on that is sometime late fall, October or November. We held a public hearing on May 8th, last Wednesday, on Southgate Interchange with 460. That was a location public hearing. A lot of times we do a combined location and design public hearing. This is simply a location and take comments on the environmental assessment, which is available for public to see there. We have it in our office. We'll take comments on that up until the end of this week, and then incorporate any of that, which present it to the FHWA, who will give us their assessment of the environmental impact, and then we'll begin work a little more seriously on design. We're still several years away from advertisement of that. I'll let you know when. There'll be another public hearing, probably on the exact design of it. I'll let you know when that is. Probably not for maybe another 6 or 8 months. A couple of public hearings that are coming up. The final primary 6-year plan public hearing for fiscal year beginning July 1 will be June 4th at Northside High School.
6-year plan.
That's going to cover pretty much half the state, the western, southwestern, and northwestern half of the state, the 81 corridor. It covers our Bristol, Lynchburg, Stanton, and the Salem districts from 40-some counties. Will be in, that's usually the smaller of the 2 public hearings. We have a public hearing on the primary and interstate system in the fall. This one to formulate the draft plan. This one might be a little bit more interesting than what was presented last time because of the governor's new transportation bill that passed. There's more money in the plan. I don't know, I haven't seen a draft of the plan, so I don't know if there's any new projects or if it will be simply funding some of the projects a little more completely that were already in there. So a draft plan should be out fairly soon for you to take a look at. I haven't seen one yet. But the hearing on that, again, Northside High School on June 4th.
And we did share that information with the schools as well. One of the conversations, as you well know, has been about the park and ride lot, and so we should.
An ideal place to bring up that, because that's where the funding for that would come, yes. So if any of the county wants to comment on that as well, this would be the time to either show up at that public hearing or they take comments, by mail. We'll also hold a public hearing on June 20th at Auburn Elementary School for some proposed intersection improvements at Route 8 and Fairview Church Road. So it's mostly on the sort of north end of that intersection, but even that's not for a couple years away. We're working on the design on that right now, but and part of that's holding a public hearing. Again, it's June 20th at Auburn Elementary. And that's pretty much our update. Maintenance, we've just been doing the same thing that we've been trying to catch up still from the debris and pipe cleaning. I think every pipe in the county probably needs to be cleaned out. We're slowly making our way around doing that and still picking up debris. So we'll be doing that for quite a while, I think. That's about it for the maintenance issues. The bridges are on schedule. A lot of bridge building going on. We got Blue Springs Road 613 bridge supposed to be done in late June. Route 114 bridge under construction. They still, on their contract, they still have another 1.5 years on their contract to get that done. So they're not behind schedule by that. And I think about the same completion date for the Christiansburg project on Pepper's Ferry Road, the part there by the mall, going from the mall out towards where the last project ended. That's on a late 2014 schedule. So, just an update on some of those projects that are going on.
Okay.
take- yeah.
Are you ready for board?
Sure, yeah, yes.
Mr. Creed?
Yeah, just a couple of little things. The matching funds, we've set aside some matching funds like a year ago, but do you know whether the state is going to be having the matching funds for?
I haven't seen the latest revenue sharing results. I have not seen yet, so I don't know. I know one of those was doing the rest of old sourdough with that
Sourwood.
Sourwood. I'm sorry, sourdough. I'm getting dinner on my mind. I haven't done that mistake yet.
Yeah, that was one of them. The other one was Mount Pleasant, widening some of the spots
Right.
down
Right.
on the first end of
I
that.
have not seen the results, but I know a lot of I think most of the projects that were of construction in nature were getting fully funded. So those would, if what I've been hearing is correct, some of the projects that were submitted, again, statewide, that were of more of a maintenance nature, were not getting fully funded, but I haven't seen the final results on that.
And should they come through it, are we still looking 2 or 3 years before we start getting things together, or is it something that too is going to move up as?
But a lot of it, it's not necessarily a money problem, it's a manpower problem, just in getting these through the preliminary engineering, environmental process, and design process.
So it's still going to take a pretty good amount of time to get it implemented, even after we get the money. Okay, and ask you one other thing. On the Reese Mountain Road, we're going to get those folks some kind of a letter before they could go ahead and do that bottom portion. Is that something that's
yes,
pretty
Mr. Warner
close?
was in the office, and he's getting all the paperwork that he needs.
Okay.
And we're in the process of getting the gate removed.
Yay.
Thank you.
Mr. Brown?
Yes, David, this might be a little bit off of your report today, but I serve on the Juvenile, New River Valley Juvenile Detention Home Commission, and for some time we've been looking at working with some architects to look at renovating or building a new detention home on that site. And looking on the footprint of the site, VDOT has 4 acres right next to that detention home, and from our vantage point, from the commission's vantage point, it looks pretty good to us, that we could use some of it. And so, what is the status of that piece of property there?
Right now, it's just VDOT property that we don't use, and we would be looking for anyone that would want to, purchase, or we could transfer to another state agency. If it's not another state agency, we'd have to sell it.
So,
the state police had expressed some interest in it, but I think that has sort of died out. They were not looking to actually take the property. They just wanted to use the property, and we're actually looking to dispose of it, so it's not on our books anymore.
So if I was to let the director know, how would he go? I guess he could contact you going about what he needed to do.
Right.
And probably, we would probably want to do a little due diligence on the property before we accepted it, because we might be inheriting something that VDOT or state police is wanting to get rid of.
Right.
And I guess when we take it, we take that along with it. Right. So we probably want to do a little due diligence on the property before we say yay or nay.
And that would be fine. We would just need to somehow just write a letter of permission to do something like that, just so we're covered and they're covered, so that they're working on somebody else's property. It's nice to have a letter saying that.
Yeah, because I know some of it's on the upper side probably good, but I think it's sort of like a little flood plain through the lower end of it, or something along those lines. So thank you. We appreciate that.
Anybody else? All right. Go ahead.
We got one other. Speaking of park and ride, the place there, as you come off from the interstate coming down to Christiansburg, that little spot in there where you've got some land, is that something that is available, is not available?
You're at the intersection there at Roanoke Street. I mean, they'll look at anywhere we have property. I think there's quite a bit there. The problem, I think, there is just making the access in and out, getting buses in and buses out work so close to that
Ramp.
signal.
Yeah, something we need to have an engineer look at in order to know whether it's going to work or not. That's a big deal. Okay, thank you.
Have you heard any word on the dirt glue as far as getting a VDOT approval on it, or?
I haven't heard anything final yet.
Okay.
Last I heard was leaning in the good news direction. but
I
haven't heard anything for sure.
talked to them,
Yeah.
probably 2 or 3 weeks ago, and asked them if they had any DOT approvals, which they have had.
Right.
So if that would help, I've asked them to send me some copies or something,
Yeah, they usually send a letter out stating these are the revenue sharing projects that were approved and
Okay.
the percent of the
Okay.
funding match.
Very good.
All right.
And I have one problem that I'd like to see getting taken care of, because you've been out there twice already to do it. But there's a little section on Laurel Ridge Mill Road that they had to cut out with the last flood, and they put gravel in it twice now. And after the first time, of course, it sunk and rutted. They came out and did it again, and it's starting to sink bad again. And I don't know when we might be able to get that.
Is it close to the Route 8?
Yeah,
intersection where they
you know where that
replaced that
cedar
line?
home is down there, right in front of his house. Yeah, you've been out there twice, and that's good, but it's starting to get rough again.
Okay.
And then, of course, all the dirt roads up in that area are cratered. So it's getting pretty bad. Anybody else?
I have a couple of questions more about the park and ride. And the VDOT, it owns property, and I guess the best way to describe it is it's almost beside the Stellar One Bank and where Long John Silver's is. Is that one section that VDOT owns?
I don't know if we have it on that side.
So is it on the other side
Yes.
across from Country Cooking?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. And, all right, and as far as how many acres does VDOT own right there?
I'm not sure how many it is. It's, I think it was 3 or 4 that are at the current one. I think it's similar to that.
I know there's been some changes with the funding as far as available dollars. Do you think that there's going to be like matching funds potentially available to move a park and ride and potentially develop it to have some bathrooms, things like that?
That would depend on what kind of project. If it just starts off as a VDOT project, it'll just be built as a normal, probably park and ride. Matching funds, I mean, if you're talking about county match, then that would have to be proposed by the county at the revenue sharing application process. It wouldn't be done as part of just requesting a project be done.
Do you think the next time that you could come and report, you'd get a better idea how many acres?
Yeah, I can tell you how many acres that is right there. But again, the issue there will probably be access.
It runs down that road pretty good, on 460, so might could come in up there.
And you could go back toward Charlottesville, I guess, and at that point in time, be able to get onto 81 in that direction, rather than try to make a left and.
Right.
Okay, anybody else?
Right.
Thank you very much, David.
Thank you all.
Thanks, David.
All right, the next item on the agenda is public address, and we have 2 people signed up.
Let's get Kevin.
Kevin.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm moving too fast. We still have another delegation. It's the New River Valley Planning District Commission, Mr. Kevin Bird. I didn't mean to skip over you.
Good evening, Mr. Phillips and members of the board. Appreciate some time on your agenda tonight to provide an update to you on some activities that have been underway at the Commission for the past 12 to 18 months or so. If you aren't familiar with the Planning District Commission, it was formed over 43 years ago by the local governments in the New River Valley to provide service back to those local governments. And the services we typically provide are technical assistance, whether it's study for local government or regional studies. We do about 2 to 3 regional studies on an annual basis. We're also unique in that our board is comprised of elected officials across the New River Valley. So it presents an opportunity to have a forum of mutual concern. And it's the only place those elected officials come together on a regular basis to talk about issues that are happening in their communities. And then lastly, we have fairly broad enabling legislation from the General Assembly, and that we can do anything local governments ask us to do. And so over those 43 years, there's been some unique ways that that's been applied to help out local governments. So you have a handout there in front of you at your place, and on the right-hand side of that, you'll see a list of our board members. You see from Montgomery County that Ms. Perkins is a representative on the commission, and she has been a long-standing member of the board and served as chair for 5 years, from 2004 to 2009. And then also a citizen appointee for Montgomery County is Mr. Ray Chambers. And Mr. Chambers has been very involved with the commission, participates regularly, and when we have a subcommittee for a special project, he's typically at the table for those. So we really appreciate the leadership that Montgomery County has provided at our board level. Some specific projects to update you on. We had this past year completed 2 Safe Routes to School travel plans and grant applications. So these is a program that VDOT helps administer, where you can help work between the local government and the school board in that local school to figure out ways that kids can either bike or walk to school safely if they want to. And sometimes there might need to be sidewalks to get installed to help make that happen, or walking caravans that happen. So we completed those for Bellevue Elementary and the Auburn campus, and we are awaiting word from those applications probably in June timeframe. We also completed a corridor study for the Route 11 460 area in the Shawsville area, and that really was focused on access management. There's a lot of curb cuts in that area and improving safety, and that looked at some pedestrian options there, and it was primarily about safety in the corridor. This past year we launched a Healthy NRV, which is the first time that our organization and for the most part several local governments have looked at community health. And this is a program that's funded by the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, and we partnered with Virginia Tech Institute for Policy and Governance, Holly Lesko over there, and then also the New River Health District. So Dr. Molly Odell has been involved figuring out this program and how to move it. So it's 2 components primarily. One of them is looking at community health indicators for each of our counties. So what are some of the major health issues? The other part is engaging youth on that issue in their communities. We did the youth engagement through digital storytelling. And the youth that were from Montgomery County, first year we engaged the Eastern Montgomery High School area, and we had a group of youth there that's really stepped up to the plate and did a phenomenal job. So just to name them, we have Josh Ferris and Tiffany Connor. So if any of you know those 2 individuals, they've done a remarkable job, not just in their project in their community, but they've helped out other communities across the region as their youth were engaging in the project. But the digital storytelling really builds the interviewing skills for these kids, and also gives them digital video editing and video production, so they're able to capture their story from their community and share it with more people. And I take an opportunity now to share with you a video that Tiffany Connor made in the Eastern Montgomery area. It's pretty compelling. And, so I'm getting this thing going. The 3 items that the Eastern Montgomery students talked about a lot in their project were subject to bullying, teen pregnancy, and substance abuse. You'll see Tiffany's video here.
When someone makes the decision to do drugs, they don't realize that they're not just harming themselves, they're also harming people around them. When I was 13, my friend Courtney lived next door. We would go to the swimming hole and just hang out at each other's house. Courtney had a sister named Ashley who was always in trouble. She was only 19 and had a son who we used to babysit. One night, Ashley did pills and showed up at her mom's house. She stumbled her way into the house and was totally out of it. She couldn't even remember how she got there. She could barely talk, and eventually she passed out. But the worst part was, she had her 1-year-old son with her. The ambulance was called for her, and her mom was crying and trying to get her to wake up. Her sister took her son in the other room. When she got to the hospital, they pumped her stomach and sent her home a couple days later. Courtney's sister refused to get help, and she ended up losing custody of her son about a year later for child neglect. A few months after she lost custody of him, she went to jail for possession. Courtney's mom was afraid after that to let her do things, and my mom didn't want me over at her house if Ashley was there. When one one person makes the choice to do drugs, they knock down others in a terrible domino effect. They don't realize that they are harming the people who care about them most. Ashley hurt her mom and her sister, even her son. Before you make the decision to do drugs, think about the people around you. Because when you make that decision, it's not just about you.
So, pretty impressive and powerful video for a teenager to make and telling their story about their community. And the piece about this project that's interesting. At this point in time, the community is looking to find ways to support teens in the area. So this teen group brought some of these issues to the table, and working with the YMCA there, they're trying to find ways that they can add some programming for teens. And so they've approached the Community Foundation for some funds to help them have a space at the YMCA or some programming for teens to go and just have some space together. So it's nice that I think the project identified a need, and then the community is working to address that need. A couple other pieces on the transportation. I heard y'all discussing the park and ride lot issue a little while ago. We've talked with Dan Brew, the MPO, about updating the regional park and ride lot study. And right now we have a plan that's about 5 years old that identifies all the formal and informal park and ride lots, the number of vehicles that are there, and their frequency of use on average, and looking to update that this next year. And then more focused discussion about 118 park and ride lot situation, of analyzing some of those available parcels that might be out there and potential uses, and how those uses may work together a little bit better. And we recently awarded funds for a flash flood awareness program. So looking at areas outside of the floodplain, areas that might have reduced culvert size, that might be susceptible to flash floods, helping to identify those and put some signage up, and also have some community meetings talking with folks about what might help relieve that situation. So we'll be doing that over the next 12 to 18 months coming up. Also point out that Montgomery County has another round coming to them on the Newer Valley Home Consortium, which is affordable housing implementation funds. The last time the county had the funds, it was invested in the Linden Green Old Farm Village residential rehabilitation project. So that's coming up in the next year or so, and there's conversations underway now about how to apply those funds within the community. And the Pawnee District Commission provides staff support to Newer Valley Revolving Loan Fund, and the Price's Fork Village area, the Three Birds Berry Farm, was a recipient of funds for that. It's actually run through the Newer Valley Development Corporation, which owns the incubator facility that we're in, but the PDC provides some staff support for that. And then the stormwater program. I'll talk a little bit about that, and then I'll go over towards the Livability Initiative project. With the stormwater program, y'all are well aware that the regulations forthcoming from the state, and you have until July 1 of 2014 to have a program in place. It would have been July 1 of this summer, but requested a 12-month extension. And we're waiting to hear back on that extension, which we should hear in June. I think they meet the second week of June, so we should hear very soon. It's a two-phased approach for developing the local stormwater management program. The first phase, which we just completed, that's to identify a contact name within the local government, to provide a draft ordinance. And that draft ordinance for the folks that are participating with the Newer Valley program was taking the model ordinance from the state and saying, we received this and this is the basis for our ordinance. And then a staffing plan. So what are the staffing impact going to be when this transfers from the state to the local government? So we've identified the costs associated with that in this phase 1 and submitted that back to the state for all local governments participating in this program. The phase 2 program, which we expect to have a meeting here in the next couple of weeks to kick off phase 2, is modifying the ordinance. We have legal counsel that's part of the contract to help anticipate any issues there might be between existing ordinances and any conflict points. We also have public education that will provide materials to local governments and help them facilitate meetings if they would like for us to do so, to work with the development community and others that might be impacted by the regulation. And start that as early as we possibly can so people can anticipate this. Also helping to develop local manuals for the local government staff to use, and trifold brochures so the public, when they come into the department, they'll have something to take away with them. And we're also creating a database for tracking projects. So if a project gets built, you have to have a way of tracking this over time and then going back to the site to inspect it on a 5-year basis. So creating the database for that to happen. And lastly, the Pawnee District Commission will provide a regional option for any local governments that want to either participate together on plan review or inspection, or if they want the commission to do that, but it's some regional option because some of the local governments don't have the staffing resources to be able to do this. So that we anticipate the second phase, most of that work being done in draft form by December, and it's going to come to local governments to implement by July 1. It's going to be a pretty big shift.
That's going to be probably one of the biggest issues we've dealt with in a number of years, and so really appreciate the work Kevin and the PDC are doing to help coordinate that. You may have seen an article in the Roanoke paper about what Roanoke County is facing in terms of the cost and the personnel, and we're really trying hard to get our arms around this now, trying to get gain some additional time to determine exactly how best to implement this. But the PDC is really being a big help in that and helping us navigate through those waters.
Shift your attention to the second page in your handout there. This is the Nearby Livability Initiative program update for you. This is a 3-year regional planning process and has extensive community outreach as a part of this in a lot of innovative ways to try and reach as many people as possible. And so far we have just under 3,000 people that have participated in the 2 years, and we expect to wrap this up in December of this year. Really the emphasis for this program is to learn about our current trends or current issues within the communities on a data basis, and then also figure out what some of the community members are thinking their community needs are for the future. And we feel like there's a pretty significant benefit in here for local government, helping them anticipate some future trends or future issues or challenges they might have to address. We prepared a video for this, and I'll show that to you here. It's mostly about what the program is entailing and why it's important to get your voice at the table. So I'm going to share this with you.
We are the New River Valley. We are communities with unique personalities, but we're connected in many ways. We love our river, we love our land, we love our way of life. But we have some challenges, and we've got some work to do. Some of our downtowns are struggling, places that were once the heart of our communities. Our local governments are finding their resources stretched to the max. Many of our children are leaving to find jobs in other places. In fact, about half of all the people who live in Giles and Floyd counties have to commute outside of their county to find work. Home electricity costs have also increased 30% each year for the last 5 years, and for many, it's getting harder to pay the bills and keep their households going. We have an aging population, and our seniors will have changing needs for housing, transportation, and assistance. How can we help our parents and grandparents safely age in their homes and in the communities they love? How can we preserve the scenic beauty and unique character of our region while still growing the economy? Some people believe we have to choose one or the other, but we don't. We can work smart. We can come together. We can be creative. We have tremendous assets here, and many great things are possible. If we can figure out new directions in the economy, we can get more people working again. If we can be smart about job training, then we can give our kids a better chance to make a good living and raise their own families here. If we can expand our transportation choices, we can keep people connected to the places they need to go. What might be possible if we tackle more issues together? We need promising ideas we can turn into action so that more communities and families in the New River Valley can thrive. If we figure out what those ideas might be, then we can create the kind of future we want. That's why we need you at the table. Join our conversation.
So it's a quick intro video that's on our website and a few other places as well, just to get people enticed to participate in the outreach program. In front of you is a very abbreviated form of the Livability Initiative interim report that was released in September 2012. It's sent around a 15 or so page document to each of the local governments to review earlier. And just want to hit a couple of highlights from that on the data side. We looked at population and how that's looking out towards 2030. And you see that Montgomery County is on the upward trend on all those demographic areas we've broken out. But a particular note to pay attention to is the trend of the baby boomer generation moving on through. You see that's the largest age segment that's growing in the county, and that's definitely the trend in a lot of other communities. So the question is, how do folks age in their communities in place? Does it mean modified housing? Is it more assisted living? Really, what is that population going to need? And then looking towards the little pie chart there, the housing costs. You see that year housing stock built, over 40% of the housing in the newer valley was built over 30 years ago. So I think there's a good opportunity there for the private sector to address that aging housing stock, and want banks to be aware of that opportunity to lend money if folks need that, to either modify their house, bring it up to current standards, or to build new homes. Based on this population projection, we're anticipating about 10,000 new homes in the region by 2030. And 85 to 90% of those being needed in Montgomery County. So you're looking at several thousand houses potentially that the market may need. So there needs to be discussion about how does that come about and where does it go. On the commuting patterns, not a whole lot changed for Montgomery County. We're receiving a lot of employees coming into this county to work, but we make other counties aware that they're exporting a lot of their population. And it's important on the economy and the impacts of that economy. Switching over on the back side there, in terms of jobs and education, you can see that several of the counties in the region are behind state averages for high school diplomas or advanced degrees. And Montgomery County is doing well on those figures. But there's certainly a very robust education system here, whether it's public or the universities and the community college. The agricultural shifts, we're certainly seeing a lot decline of agricultural land. In Montgomery County at 10% was the largest decrease of agricultural land. So the question that's been circulating in this process is, how do we remain a viable agricultural region? And what does that mean? Are the practices changing? Those are just discussions that are underway now. And then we provided some information on the community health that I referred to earlier. And you can see on that bingo looking board there on the bottom right that Montgomery County doesn't meet the state average for percent of children in poverty. So it's higher than the state average. It's higher than the state average for access to healthy foods. And it's higher than the state average for percent of adult obesity. And so this is some indicators that we'll be tracking over time now that that data is available. As part of what we do at the Planning District Commission is collect data and maintain that over time. And the last thing I'll mention on livability initiatives, through all this public feedback, or those nearly 3,000 people, some general comments that we received that were specific to the county. One was one that Mr. Clark was discussing earlier, is a rural road maintenance. We're hearing that as a part of this process, that people are concerned about the limited amount of funds that are available to keep up the roads. Broadband coverage and cell phone coverage, making sure that we have internet speeds that are desirable in the rural areas, and that's something that the Commission's been working on quite a bit, and it's not an easy answer. But keeping the school system strong, something that we heard a lot about, and making sure it's competitive. Connection between K through 12 and job skills. This isn't just a Montgomery County comment, it's something we're hearing across the region, is making sure public schools are matched up with the employers and providing the best skill sets that they need. And then a couple more is that community centers in rural areas to provide that connectedness to their community. It seems to be a change over several decades, and the potential need for that again in their communities. Housing affordability is starting to become a concern for a lot of people. We were looking at some figures earlier today, whereas in 2000, the numbers didn't look like they were as bad as they are now in 2010 in terms of affordability. So that'll be in our final report. And then continued governmental cooperation between the two towns and the county. So those are some specific comments the public had put forward through that process. The last thing I'll mention to you is that the Planning District Commission went through an agency assessment last summer. And this was an introspective process that our board went through, and engaging a lot of the member local governments. We had focus groups in all 4 counties in the city, find out what we were doing well, what we weren't doing well, and what local governments want us to do in the future. So the board had a committee established to that, and is being led by the board, and some strategic things that we'll take on over the next couple of years to advance the commission, make sure we're serving the member of local governments the way that you all need us to serve you. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions or any comments that you have on that report.
Any questions?
just something you mentioned in passing about broadband penetration. Do you know what the percentages are for broadband penetration within Montgomery County or the New River Valley more generally? What percentage of access to high-speed internet?
Not offhand.
Okay, but is that data that you would collect, or
it's difficult to obtain because we're limited in what the private providers will offer. We do have access to several provider information in terms of where their lines are located.
Yeah.
We're just finishing up the middle mile fiber project running from Whitfield to Botetourt, so we're hopeful that the private sector is going to go into that middle mile and then run more lines out.
Sure. Okay. I mean, that's something I don't know if we have that kind of data or anything resembling that. I mean, because that's something that's brought up every once in a while. I'd be interested in hearing a little bit more about that, either from PDC or from staff. So.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions or comments?
Yes, thanks for the report, and coming to us and explaining it. Good work.
Thank you very much, Kevin.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity.
Thanks, Kevin.
Okay, now let's get back on track here. Next item on the agenda is public address. We have 2 speakers signed up, and their names will be called first. After that, I'll be open to the public, rest of the folks. And the first person is Andrew Whiteley, and I'm not sure if it's Jack Bardo are going to present together.
Yes, sir.
Please step forward. You have, please state your name, address, and you have 5 minutes.
Okay. My name is Andrew Wiley. I'm a second-year student at Virginia Tech. This is my friend Jack. Y'all don't mind, we're going to kind of co-team our little presentation. Thank you all for giving us the opportunity to speak to you. We've been working the past couple of years while we've been at Tech to try to attempt to get an on-campus voting location. As you all may be aware, last cycle there was a bit of an issue out at the airport with really long delays. A lot of students even didn't get a chance to cast their ballot before certain campaigns had, but before certain results hadn't been released. I know that I think the congressional was called shortly after 7:30 after the polls officially closed, and there was still a line at the precinct. So we were told right around right before the 2012 election that it would be possible to get a voting location on campus. I believe UVA and other public schools throughout Virginia, universities throughout Virginia have on-campus polling locations. We were just told that it was too short to try to make that switch from the airport to on-campus. So we reached out to the university not too long ago, and we received a letter that stated essentially that that I'm sorry, kind of too bad, that kind of thing. So we really didn't know what else to do other than come to the board, come to Blacksburg public, their council, and to talk to you all to let you know that we're concerned about it. Jack, I don't know if you want to add anything.
Yes. The current polling precinct for most students is at the Virginia Tech Airport, and as you know, that's in the middle of the Corporate Research Center. A lot of students had a lot of trouble trying to find that because the Corporate Research Center can be very confusing to navigate. To get a bus ride there, the bus only comes every 15 minutes, and it takes, the bus ride from campus to the precinct takes about a good 20 minutes. And in addition, we believe that an ideal location on campus for the polling location would be at the Castle Coliseum, but we're open to some other locations. And yes, it would definitely encourage more students to get involved with the political process.
And I just want to add one more thing. We were told originally that there was parking locations. I think that they needed, I believe, a dozen or so parking spots they wanted to zone off to keep that, I guess, for polling officials and whatnot. If you look at it, I mean, I guess if you look at it from this perspective, E3, I'm pretty sure covers, I don't have the exact statistics, but I want to say 90% of the voters there are students. The vast majority of which live on campus, so they wouldn't be taking their car to the polling place. Let's say if it was a castle, if it was at the chapel or the library or where have you. And then if you look at like the off-campus voters, like if you lived in an apartment complex, I mean, there's already designated spots for them to park at anyways. So I don't think, I feel like that the university kind of just doesn't want to touch this. I don't know if the board can do anything in particular. I'm just coming to you all for some suggestions, for some help. So if there's any comments or suggestions, it'd be appreciated.
Yeah. We do not necessarily respond to comments at this time, but it's something we can get some information back to you if you make sure Ms. Winnie has your address and things, and we'll see what kind of information we can get.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Thanks.
Is there anybody else in the audience who would like to speak to the board? Seeing no one, we will close this public address session. We have no addendum tonight. The next item is consent agenda. Do I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second?
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Tuck?
Aye.
Mr. Gabriel?
Aye.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Ms. Perkins?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Chair Palettis?
Aye.
7 ayes.
The next item is new business, and subject A is conveyance from the Montgomery County School Board, the Auburn High and Middle School property. Do I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair, there's a typo.
Yeah, the G
Typo,
on
that's why I was having,
As long as that's corrected, I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
we have a G on Auburn. It doesn't belong there.
This is a different high school.
That's different.
Is it part of the county?
We'll get that fixed.
So I guess we fixed the typo.
The rest of it's, the resolution's okay.
Okay, any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Tuck?
Aye.
Mr. Gabriel?
Aye.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Ms. Perkins?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Chair Palettis?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is a resolution of appreciation, the Economic Development Authority for Mr. Larry Linkus.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Gabriel?
Aye.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Ms. Perkins?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Tuck?
Aye.
Chair Palettis?
Aye.
7 ayes.
And the next item is a resolution of appreciation on the Economic Development Authority for F. Spencer Hall. Do I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Both of those gentlemen have done a fine job, and I just wanted to get that in right quick.
I agree with that. Roll call, please.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Ms. Perkins?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Tuck?
Aye.
Mr. Gabriel?
Aye.
Chair Palettis?
Aye.
7 ayes.
The next item is a resolution of recognition from Mr. Donald Tudora. And I would say this is a pretty big honor for the Public Service Authority in the county on the award he got for the Water Operator of the Year
Yes, sir.
statewide. And I think that's phenomenal. So do I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second. Third.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Perkins?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Tuck?
Aye.
Mr. Gabriel?
Aye.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Chair Palettis?
Aye.
7 ayes.
The next item on the agenda is our county attorney's report,
No report, Mr. Chair.
county administrator's report.
Mr. Chair, just briefly wanted to remind everyone of the joint meeting with the school board that'll be held here tomorrow night at 6 o'clock in multipurpose room 2. Also, the joint meeting with the town of Christiansburg officials will be next Monday night, the 20th, at 6 o'clock, also in multipurpose room 2. And that's all I have.
All right. Next is board members' reports, and we'll start with Supervisor Tuck.
First, I would move that we advertise parcel ID number 1802236 to be sold at public auction. I know that we're going to need to do a public meeting regarding that, and so I would move, and I'm looking to the county attorney to make sure I'm getting my language correct.
You'd be advertising a public hearing to receive comment on the board's intention of selling or conveying public property that you identify.
What's that? I mean, the parcel number, but for the people that I'm looking, what would be the?
It's 40-foot strip. Looks like it was a former roadway, and basically a 40-foot strip across from the Corning area. If you're and the old BP station,
460 business.
Yeah, right on 460 business. In between two parcels, one's being developed by I think Southern Refrigeration, and there's another parcel that's up for sale. It goes back to where the Tech Sports Complex is, and it joins that piece of property along with another piece. But it's a narrow 40-foot wide strip that goes some distance. But at the same time, it's on county property rolls, but we don't have any use for it. And
Thank you, Mr. Thank you.
So I guess I've made a motion at this point in time.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Tuck?
Aye.
Mr. Gabriel?
Aye.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Ms. Perkins?
Aye.
Chair Palutis?
Aye.
7 ayes.
We'll get that advertised as soon as possible, and then we'll schedule the public hearing for the appropriate time after the advertisement.
Second thing is, for anyone interested in the Planning Commission, we do have some vacancies available. There's been quite a bit of turnover in the last few months, and so if you're interested, please contact the county. We need good people as the county continues to grow and work on the Planning Commission to regulate that growth a little bit. And that's it.
Thank you. Supervisor Gabriel.
I actually have a bunch of things to report. First of all, I received a note from a constituent who just wanted me to make everyone aware who's listening that the Mental Health Association of New River Valley is sponsoring a series of seminars, free seminars in Blacksburg on, it's on Thursday, May the 30th. It starts at 9 a.m. It goes until noon, and it talks about mental health first aid. Dr. James Reinhardt, who's the Associate Director of Psychiatry at Tech's Counseling Center, and used to be the Commissioner of Virginia's Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services, is leading that seminar. I'll send out the email so that the board members are aware of that. Also, last week I attended, because I'm the alternate to the local MPO board, I attended the MPO meeting. I resolved after that never to answer my phone when Mr. Meadows calls me in the middle of the afternoon anymore. It was a very tense meeting, but I think it worked out okay. The issue was that because the MPOs were reconfigured and our main MPO that covers most of Montgomery County, the city of Radford, was folded into that, as well as a small portion of Pulaski County. And that came with a little bit more money from the federal government. Unfortunately, the amount of money Radford used to get, Montgomery County used to get, was less than this new amount of money, and so it was parceling out this money, which mostly went to Blacksburg Transit and Radford Transit. And they both ended up taking pretty severe funding cuts because of that reallocation of funds. It was about as fair as it could be with the lack of money there. And I know that the MPO is going to have some challenges going forward, trying to make sure that this fledgling service in Radford is nurtured, and Blacksburg, which really needs to be expanding its service, because I can tell you, driving by those students waiting at those bus stops, those buses are full all the time, is really going to be an issue. I also attended the school board meeting last week. The only information there I wanted to pass on is just to let you know that they did indeed pass their budget. They may, however, revisit a certain section of that because there was some concern about the middle school scheduling and PE within that. They're going to discuss that, I believe, at their next meeting. Also, the other thing I wanted to bring up is that the $400,000 that we voted to allocate towards maintenance a little while back, they have set a priorities list, and they're going to start working on that. There's a fair amount of security issues that are going to be addressed, including locks for all the front doors of all the schools. and some other stuff, specifically at Christiansburg High School, including some ladder safety cages, maybe some auditorium seats, and a structural wall that needs some refinishing there. Let's see, what else? Where's my notes? Right, so we talked a little bit at our public meeting about with Blacksburg about the economic development in the arts symposium that panel discussion that I attended in the city of Roanoke. And I'll just simply say, I won't go into it again here. I think that's an area of partnership that countywide we should be investigating. And I don't know if maybe through the PDC. I know that's a portion of the livability initiative as well. So I want to keep us appraised of that. I mean, things are going to change very radically once this new Virginia Tech Center for the Arts comes online. And it's not, I don't think it's really going to suck all the air out of the room, but it's really going to give us an opportunity to market ourselves outside of just Blacksburg in really interesting and exciting ways. Let's see. Finally, I wanted to thank the students from Virginia Tech for coming. I let you guys know that they said that they intended to come because I was a little bit disappointed, perhaps, by the response that Tech gave to the registrar when they asked again to reconsider putting a polling location on the Virginia Tech campus. And I'm wondering if there might be interest on this board in trying to revisit this situation, maybe getting all the stakeholders to sit down around a table at some point, Montgomery County, maybe the town of Blacksburg, the registrar, and Virginia Tech, and to see if we can't work something out. It would seem that this would be a situation where other public universities all around the state have found a solution. So there's no reason that Virginia Tech can't do this. As Mr. Whiteley pointed out, and this is information I'd like to maybe get from the registrar, is the percentage of registered voters in E3 who live on campus right now, because it's got to be 75 to 80% of the voters, I would think. So those kids aren't going to be driving. So parking spaces, which is one of the problems that's been brought up repeatedly, is not going to be an issue. The thing about the signs, I mean, that's something that can easily be gotten around. You just take down signs. They had signs up when there was the senatorial debates, so it's not like Tech can't have political signs up. I've seen them all over campus, during special events and stuff like that. So the reasonings they give me the sense that they just don't honestly want to deal with it, and perhaps this board, in conjunction with the registrar and other stakeholders, can maybe have a conversation with them and figure out a way in which we can work this out. So again, I don't know what we can do. If maybe the board would be okay with perhaps allowing us to pursue this, I'd be happy to take the lead on this, or if the board chair would be more comfortable with this, then that's fine. If the board as a whole, except for me, doesn't want to pursue it, that's fine too. But I just wanted to bring that especially to our attention, maybe have a very brief conversation about it.
Anybody have any comments on that?
Well, I'm sure that
your district here.
I'm sure that thinking back in the past, when we looked at sites on campus, we looked at the airport. I mean, the fire station on Airport Road. We looked at different locations, and there was a lot of pluses and minuses. One of the things that would bother me, my constituents more than anybody else, would be parking services going on campus. Man, I don't know where those people come from, but I think the most tickets I got in my life, I got at Tech, and they ain't cheap. I mean, look around like it, they got you and gone. And so one of the things I think they'd have to look for is a designated area where people could go and park and not receive any kind of tickets or anything. I mean, because it can get kind of crowded around there. And if you just go over a little bit, and I think they work by volume more than anything else. And from what I understand too, if you are having a polling place over, the campus goes about its normal business with people, with students going back and forth to class and so forth. And some of the comments made, some of the seniors that live on that part of town some of them are sort of intimidated when it goes on campus to drive their car to park and look for a parking spot, just because of their age and the students crossing back and forth and so forth. I've heard pros and cons both ways, but it's something that could be explored a little bit more. And of course the campus, I mean the university would have to come to the plate to sort of find the space, an appropriate space, a location for it,
Yeah.
so to speak.
It would seem too that this is a time in which we don't have a presidential election coming up where turnout's going to be absolutely
small,
huge. You know, this is going to be a smaller turnout election, and then, you know, you have a couple of elections to kind of work out these kinks, you know, before these things come around. I mean, tech parking services are vultures. And I see that parking on campus every single day. I mean, they are there the moment. Like if I forget to put my hang tag in my window, I got a ticket like in 10 minutes. But that being said, they are also very good at making sure that nobody parks where they're not supposed to park, and the people who are supposed to park there are able to get to where they are. I mean, they can clear out Castle Coliseum lot, you know, in minutes when there's a basketball game. You know, so you know, the patrolling 10 to 15 spots in that giant lot shouldn't be a problem for them.
Is that part of your district over there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a question about it. Not specific, the other places that do this, like when Liberty University did it in Lynchburg, wasn't that just for their own students? Like, do you make it for just the students, or do you have to reconfigure the precinct so like the students are on the college campus and the other people that don't live on the campus vote at other places? Like, how does anyone know how that works?
I think when you draw the lines, Murray, you try to equalize the numbers of some of those 3 districts. If there's 3 districts in E, you try to sort of proportionally make them equal, if I'm not mistaken.
Some of those houses that are right around the campus still may be pulled into that voting precinct. But
And there's a limit, I think, on how many people they have per precinct.
They'll try to balance it, yes.
Yeah,
right.
So when Liberty University did it, it was advertised so it was just for their students. It wasn't probably just for their students.
And that would probably be a registrar's call, I would think.
Wouldn't it have to be approved?
But as far as getting my opinion, as far as pursuing it, it's Mr. Brown's district, so I feel like I don't necessarily wouldn't get involved with it as much as he would.
It would seem to me that you need to address what they have deemed as a problem, and that is parking. Whether it's a real live demon or not, you know, that's what they have decided. And I don't know a whole lot about the buildings over there, but it seems to me like maybe something like the field house that they might not be using so awfully much has a tremendous amount of parking right below it. If that would work and they would let you use it, it would, you know, that's something I can see where, you know, some of the things over into the body of tech might not be suitable, and they wouldn't want people, a lot of traffic in there. But that field house could handle, about everybody could come and have them all inside if they wanted to.
I would defer a little bit to Bill because it is his district, but maybe we could work with in carving out a district that is maybe instead of 3 districts with the E, we end up with 4, but one that is primarily students or all students. Because I understand that there might be some folks who are going to be reluctant to come over on campus. It is in some ways intimidating. Sometimes those kids are walking out in front of you and they don't stop. And they just keep walking, and they just hope, they know that you're going to stop in their minds. And so there is that. But I want to see everybody get involved. And the more kids that vote, the other thing I was wondering about is perhaps it seemed like that there was a wave of student votes more so in the late afternoons. And perhaps that we can shift some of the poll workers and work with Mr. Wirtz to be able to address that. Maybe some more, you know, we've allocated some more money for voting machines to be able to address the push of students, which they tend to vote later in the evening, where folks in the town or working folks, it seems like, vote more in the morning and then maybe at lunchtime. So maybe also trying to address it that way. At least that was my perception of things.
Well, yeah, I think there's some problems with that, but we don't have to go into that now. But the problem, I mean, students do vote differently because they vote in waves after their classes end for that period.
Yeah.
So there's a wave, for example, on a Tuesday, there's going to be a wave at about 1 o'clock because 12:45 class gets out at 12:45. There's going to be a wave, you know, an hour and 15 minutes, hour and a half after that, and stuff like that. I had some specific questions. I was wondering if I could ask Mr. Meadows to perhaps gather some information from the registrar, and this goes kind of the parking thing specifically. I was wondering if we could get a count of how many current registered voters there are in E3, and more to the point, what percentage of those registered voters live on campus, to the best of our estimate? Because if it is, you know, if it is 50% or something like that, then, you know, parking is going to be more of an issue. But if it's, you know, 85, 90%, then the idea of trying to hold a certain number of spots might not be that big of a deal. Related to that is that, are there state requirements or are there local requirements, but how many parking spaces per precinct or per polling location you actually need to reserve? So something that would need to be dealt with there. So, and I take you know, I take the concerns, and I deal with the issue of people being afraid to come on campus all the time. I mean, in my other life, you know, as a professor, like, I put on programs that are open to the public, and people just don't come because they are indeed afraid of parking services. And parking services is a well-justified, at Virginia Tech, has a well-justified reputation for being kind of hawkish. But you know, it's only hawkish because they're being ordered to, and if there are ways to get around it, basically, is what I'm saying. So,
Matt, I think what you're saying has a lot of truth in it, but and being intimidated might be a strong word, but you know, you talk to some of our seniors and say, well, those kids just walk out in front of you, you know, they don't even look this way, right or left, and you're driving around trying to park in, you know, a parking space, find a parking space, and they just stepping out between parked cars and so forth all around you, and they said, well, I'd rather not go on the campus, you know, unless I have to, you know.
Right.
And that's what some people say.
And I understand those concerns, but if that's 10% of the voters, then we're disadvantaging 90% of the voters in that precinct in preference for those 10%. And I'd much rather, you know, but if it's 50-50, then this is really something that we need to consider.
And Virginia Tech is going to have to buy into this because they will be the ones providing the location and the area. And if it happens, the tech officials are going to have to be the ones that are convinced we need this here.
Ms. Perkins?
What can there not be a special polling place, polling district established just for those tech students? And no parking would be involved or anything? I mean, is that I don't know how Liberty University did it, but it seems like to me that the people who are not on the camp, we're talking about the students on the campus, that we want to make it a little bit easier for them to get to the polls and not disenfranchise them. And it seems to me that the people who live outside the campus would continue to vote in the places where they normally vote and allow the students to, we would establish a special polling precinct that just involves the campus and the campus students. Now, I know it's going to cost money. I know it's going to take a lot to ferret out who are the students, where they live, and that sort of thing. But I still think that you could have a situation in which you wouldn't have the residents in the surrounding areas being asked to go into the campus to vote.
Does that require Department of Justice approval if we establish a separate? Oh yeah,
basically, it's, as you know, the polling districts or precincts are set up, you know, based on land mass.
Right.
So I mean, certainly it's easy to go ahead and put the dorms into one area that would be a new precinct. But the hard part would be the other areas that are predominantly student housing that are outside campus. I mean,
Heathwood
may be a little bit more difficult to include.
Yeah, Heathwood's a good example of that whole area.
They have, yeah, I know that each of those districts, because you were on that group, I think, that were there, and each one is supposed to have a representative number of people, and that's how you
Correct.
did G and all the rest of them. But what I'm asking is, does the state and the State Board of Elections, do they have any kind of, let's say, permission process by which they would allow special precinct districts to be created?
I'm not aware of it. We'll check on, see what Liberty's done, and maybe UVA's done something as well. The only other special precinct like you're talking about is like they do have a precinct here where you can come vote. You don't have to go to your precinct, you can come here and vote.
Right.
That's always a possibility to do that.
Right.
But that's the only one that they let you do that I'm aware of.
Yeah, I knew that we did have.
Now, Liberty may just set up a precinct that has just their dorms, and then Liberty also has a lot of housing that they've built. Maybe that's technically off campus, but it's for student housing. They may include that in that precinct, but we'll check.
Yeah.
Could you take, I mean, there's E1, E2, and E3.
Yes, sir.
It's all in E. And I guess the reason why E was sort of split because at the president's election, one of the precincts was overloaded, so they made it E3.
Correct.
It might be possible to make an E4 just for campus.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I was
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
And leaving the 3 and maybe taking a little bit out of 2 to sort of make the work easier. Establishing an E4 on campus, and it still would be within the E district. It would cost some money to operate
but you would have the
and separate
equal.
poll books, and I mean, not being the what they call them.
You would still have the equal population in the 7 basic districts.
Correct. Yeah, the precincts don't have to be equal.
Right.
No, it's just the.
You can't have. There's a threshold of registered voters that you can't go over. Because then it gets too crowded in justice. And no, there's actually state law says, because then you start deterring voting if there's longer lines, and that's why they have that. But
I was thinking of something such as Bill just mentioned, where E would still remain the same in terms of numbers of people related to the other districts, but there could be another voting precinct within that area.
If this were to happen, an E4 precinct were to be carved out, which was only on campus, I mean, the polling location has to be within the precinct's borders, right?
Right.
Yes.
So Tech would have to
agree to it. Yeah, Tech's got to agree to it.
But I mean,
agree to house it.
Would they have to do it, or would they have to agree to it in order to house it? Like if there was an E4 precinct which only consisted of Virginia Tech campus with no land off of campus, would that polling location have to by law be within that precinct, or would Virginia Tech have to
The voting
agree?
location has to be either within the precinct or within 1 mile of the precinct.
Oh, so Tech would still say no, and we would have to house that precinct location at the airport or something like that.
Right.
Okay, so you still need Tech's
Tech's
buy-in.
have to agree to use obviously their property or their buildings to house. But you could still make a precinct that's just a school, but then use something that Tech doesn't own as the precinct, as the voting place.
Yeah.
And that can be within 1 mile of that precinct, but that may not solve the problem.
Yeah, that doesn't help.
You got things like the German club over there, and would that be big enough? Seems to me it would.
That's a good option.
And then Tech wouldn't have to be involved in whether, it's just barely off of Tech's property.
I mean,
It's an A, isn't it? I don't know.
Well, we can figure out where it is. The one thing we can do is we can get with the mapping guys and just kind of figure out, one, where are all the dorms now? I'm not sure they're all in E. I think some of them may be in some of the other precincts, but we can figure out where they are, what options we could do, and then maybe come up with a plan if you want.
I'll follow up with the registrar on those questions too.
I'm in support of following up if Bill is okay with it, following up.
Craig, don't you have sort of like a liaison with monthly liaison?
I do have a monthly meeting with Dr. Wilson, but the letter that all these guys are referring to about Tech saying they weren't interested came from Dr. Wilson.
Yeah, he was the one involved.
Well, I think he probably authored that letter, probably had a little input from some other people around campus. And but I would hate to see if it's a very good possibility we start doing some work. If it's not a possibility, I hate to see staff, attorneys, and everybody do a whole lot of work and they say, no, we're not going to do it. If it's a remote possibility that we will consider establishing possibly a E4 or whatever and a place to house it, then we do some work to for them to approve, to look at it or whatever. But if they say it's absolutely no, I don't care what you do, why have staff beat their brains out for nothing?
Well,
the other side of that would be, why wouldn't you just put in another precinct? Not one, no, just more voting things in the one
that we have
at the airport.
You turn them over quick.
You know, you get them out of there, in and out, a whole lot faster, and it wouldn't cost a whole lot more money.
Yeah, I think the issue, and I'm maybe speaking out of turn, I think the issue with that thought was that they have enough machines for the number of voters in the precinct. It's just, as Supervisor Gabriel said, they all come in bunches. And so, you know, there's a real downtime, but then, and what happened in the last election is that last class, when it dismissed, everybody went to vote.
But you know, that last class, if they know what happened this last time, then the next time, they ought to have other breaks during the day that they could get there earlier.
Yeah, but it's transient.
If, you know, if they should choose to do
Well,
so.
yeah, that's true. The problem is that group in 2 years and 4 years
It
won't be
changes.
the group.
The group changes.
Yeah.
And if we really want to be honest about the whole thing, I know that was the biggest problem, but I can tell you at F1 that people left the line because they had to go to work. Some of them came back after work and tried to vote, and some of them did not vote because they had to be at work and that their work did not get off before the polls closed. And it was very upsetting to me that this would happen in the United States of America, period. Because it's a democracy. And for someone to take their time and get in line and then not be able to vote, I have a real hard time with that. You know, because I'm teaching my children in 3rd grade, democracy, Republican form of government, representative democracy, and how important it is to vote. And I saw people leave, and I know for a fact some people didn't vote.
Yeah.
Well, when I went to one of our state legislators about this, and I told him of my concern, I was told that wasn't any big deal, it only happens every 4 years, and I will not name that individual. But that again was very upsetting to me.
Yeah.
So to be honest about the whole thing, I mean, we're supposed to be encouraging voting, not discouraging it. So, you know, not to pick on, you know, just F1 or I think the whole thing needs to be reviewed. I mean, there were problems all over the place. And I think we need to be prepared for voting and for voters. And it should be encouraged, it should be friendly, it should be open. And, you know, that's just, it's called the United States of America, okay?
But,
That's all I'm going to say.
at the same time, if that's something that's been happening, it would seem to me that a little education would go a long way if they're getting there late, not just the students, but other people, as you're talking about. If they're getting there late and then having to leave because their time run out, then they need to get there a little early.
Well, then they'd have to get there before the polls open and get in line at 5 o'clock.
Right.
And stand out in the freezing
How about
cold.
if we do something real radical here?
So you're saying all these people work 12 hours a day?
In Virginia, it's hard to do.
Yeah.
How about if we do something real radical here?
Well, sometimes people have babysitting issues. They can go to work, and the employer will allow a little, maybe 30 minutes off to go vote in that window. Did they allow you time off to go vote, and then you come back, or you get off from work at 5. You got to go pick up your kid at 5:30. By the time you get to the polls, I mean, there's a lot of issues out there that you and I don't deal with daily.
Well, but I've seen people, I know down at Charlotte, that precinct, coming out with a baby on their hip. So, you know,
Yeah, you do that.
it's not that you don't, you gotta want to do it.
Yeah.
We gotta wait till
Today,
kids get to school bus.
we have a 24-hour society. People work in the morning, they work at night, okay? What if we did something real radical, or suggested it anyway? and have the polls open for 24 hours.
It's against the
from
state
the
law.
same times. No, it's got to be federal. We can do this federal. We can do it state or start it. You know, nobody wants to change things, you know, but they want everything accommodated.
Don't you have some
So, not at 6 o'clock Eastern time, we open up the polls all over the United States. Well, it's 4 o'clock, or I guess 3 o'clock in California. So we close them 6 o'clock the next morning. Everybody's got a 24-hour period to vote. I've heard this talked about before, but you don't hear it talked about. You know what I'm saying? But we do have a 24-hour society. I don't know when these laws were put into place, you know, that you
Late
open
18th
from 6 to 7. But maybe it's time to relook at it.
Well,
We
each
have a
state
lot of
has
trouble
its
with,
own thing.
precinct workers right now. How are you going to get enough precinct workers to go in there and manage?
I don't know. I
Because we
mean,
don't pay them enough.
Real early voting, like, I mean, if you, a lot of people has made their mind up a week before the election. And if you can go in,
I don't agree with
cast that
that.
ballot,
My sister
and it's a few of them that will make it up the last minute, and says, if I go in the Tuesday before and cast my ballot, I ain't gotta stand in line.
Plus, you've already got times that you can go and vote if you know you're not going to be around.
Absolutely.
If you have a problem. And I've never seen the line out here.
No, I haven't either.
So, you know, that's an option for a lot of folks.
At this point in time, do you think that we could go ahead and move towards maybe having Matt talk with Virginia Tech to see
Yeah,
if
that's-
it's a starting point?
I agree.
I have no problem with either Matt going or the
Matt
county
and-
administrator or Matt and the combination of approaching.
And Bill.
No, Bill.
Approaching Virginia Tech to see if it's a possibility, to see if they're willing to house it. If they're not willing to house it, then
it's a done deal.
The other issue too is, like, you know, I'm a professor of tech, and so this is not,
Okay.
you know, and so, you know, I'm happy to be involved. If Mr. Brown wants to be involved, you know, be the lead, then that's fine. This is not the first time students have mentioned to me
Right.
that they talk about this all the time. Is that, and you know, the stories that they told me, as I pointed out right after the election in November, the concerns that they had. I mean, some of the stories they had, the amount of time, the problems with the poll books, the lack of facilities, the fact that the vast majority of the line at the airport has to go outside. It got very cold,
They were
started
cold.
raining.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, these are issues, you know, that these students are not, and I know I'm going to hear them again next November. And so,
Do we have a group over there, Matt, that would go to the college and give them their concerns?
I believe they have, and they got
They just
the
got
exact
nowhere.
same letter that was sent to the registrar. I think he just changed
Yeah, I guess they said that when they
Yeah.
talked, that they
Yeah.
had not gotten
So,
anywhere. But
Yeah.
And they
I
said,
say we do what we can and, you know,
and is
get the
there
ball
some
started. and
coordination, did you say with the town of
I agree with
Blacksburg? Did they mention
most
that?
people that if it's a dead deal, we
They
don't
told
involve
me
a
they're
lot of
going to
time.
the town of Blacksburg to their meeting tomorrow night to raise the same concerns.
I wonder if that we could have a coordinated effort.
Well, the strategies between, I guess, well, the town elections are a little different than these elections here, so.
Yeah, except they're running in November now.
Yeah, they're all the same time now.
But I guess the students on campus, can they vote for the people?
Oh, yeah, they live within town.
Okay, so that's an interest for the town right there, and maybe the board and the county gets together and they have a joint venture, use the same strategies to try to get tech involved. And that is, if we go using this strategy and they go using that strategy, why not just team up together like Auburn and Blacksburg did on the schools?
Well, if Blacksburg,
You know? Yeah.
town of Blacksburg's interested, I mean, I don't see why we can't just have a meeting, not everybody
That's
necessarily.
that's something that we can talk about with some officials from Blacksburg and the county.
Sure.
To see.
Do we
if
want
it's-
to put that on our next
Yeah, town liaison.
town liaison?
That'd be great.
Yay.
Okay, that'll be a start.
Thank you.
And is that all, Matt?
Thank you, Matt.
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay. All right, next up, Supervisor Creed.
Don't really have anything other than just to want to let you know that I will not be here on the 20th for the meeting.
Christiansburg.
Yeah, I'm going to be vacating Friday and leaving get out of Dodge.
Yeah, you want to take a couple of us with you?
Nope.
Thanks.
Thanks for the offer.
Sorry, Mr. Pledis, I actually did have one more thing. I forgot. I'm actually not going to be here at the next meeting on the 28th. It's my son's Cub Scout end of the year picnic, and he gets his award and stuff like that, so I'm going to have to miss.
Did Tech graduate already?
This weekend.
Saturday.
No, it's this weekend.
This Saturday, okay. Because Radford did last week. Yeah. All right. Ms. Perkins?
I don't have a report. I will say that I missed several of my meetings, basically because my husband had surgery, but he's recuperating from that. So I apologize for not getting to some of those things, but nevertheless, I can't keep up with what's going on.
Well, as you probably heard
We certainly
earlier,
understand.
Matt covered the MPO meeting, so I don't know what he's going to ask you to do for that.
I know that was very
was a
generous. I do want to thank people who filled in for me during those times. I appreciate it very much. But thank you very much for everything.
Supervisor Brown?
And we're glad to see you back.
Yeah.
Amen.
That church's been kind of lonely over there.
You think so?
Yeah.
Okay.
Talking about this voting issue has completely wore me out. So I'm going to say something real quickly, and that is, I had an opportunity over here May 4th, Saturday, May 4th. We had lifeguard in here for some training, and it's score points 13, and it's just amazing to get sort of this close to those flight nurses and how they. And some of them was male nurses. I mean, I might have said that wrong, to get close to the flight nurses and stuff like that, but some of them was male nurses. But they came in. We had about 25 members of Roanoke, Christiansburg, and some other agencies in here. And they started about 8 o'clock that morning and went to 5. And they've done a lot of training in here. And I think about 1:30 or 2, they landed lifeguard in this lot over here. And when I sort of left her, I went over there, and everybody's standing around the store. This store over across the street, because, well, one who got hurt or whatever, they thought lifeguard had landed because somebody got hurt. I said, nah, it's just training over there, training exercise. But they talked to the rescue members about like stroke, heart attacks, and so forth, and setting up a safety landing zone. And so I guess if you had a heart attack and you got them ready, to teaching them how to get them ready to go into lifeguard to be swept away and so forth. And so that was some real exciting. I didn't spend a whole bunch of time here, but I did spend some time here with our people. But it was kind of exciting.
Supervisor Biggs?
Oh, I only have a request from, a lady that lives actually in Ms. Perkins' district, I believe is where she lives. But when the helicopters, she wrote about the helicopters and the noise they made and how she didn't know what those helicopters were for. And I agree, I saw them, and I think I expressed, wanting to find out about them. And she wanted our liaison to the airport authority to please carry her concern that, number one, it was sort of scary to see these military-type helicopters flying over her house, and number two, the noise they made was really loud. And I don't really know what we can do about it because they were within their legal rights to do that, and they were doing a training exercise, I guess, involving, Virginia Tech people or whatever they were doing. But I really don't know what we can do, but she just wanted to know, could you carry it as a concern?
Be happy to take it. Just, I don't know what actual authority the airport had.
Oh, they came from that airport.
I know, but what it actually came, whether they had the authority to do anything about it.
Oh, well, they probably did.
They were using the airport as a base that day.
So I'm not sure exactly whoever was putting on the exercise needed to make certain that it was publicized.
That's what I think. I think it should have been like an alert. Like, I don't know, since Blacksburg really wasn't involved except they're part of the airport, but I don't know if it could have been put out like that. But I will admit that I went out and I saw what was going on, and I was questioning what it was too, because it was sort of, you don't expect these military helicopters to be flying around like that. But whatever.
I don't think the helicopters are that scary. It's the jets that scare me.
Yeah, you ought to be out on the golf course.
I've had jets going over my house where I could see the pilot.
The sound of freedom.
That's
There
right.
you go.
And I have just a little bit of flashback from Vietnam.
Yeah.
And I tell you, it can scare you to death. I mean, you sit around and you just sort of fall to the ground. But you sort of get used to it.
Yeah.
Try to get, you never get used to it.
That's the only thing I had.
I don't have a whole lot either. I did want to make a comment on the Blacksburg meeting the other night, and another thing that has always interested me and I was able to bring up was the agritourism. And this is an effort that I wish Kevin Berger were still here to hear, because I know he supports it and is trying to continue to support it.
Can I throw something in on that?
You
We
sure may.
we did get, and I need to send that out to the board. I saw an email, and I think I mentioned it last Thursday night. We did receive a $35,000 grant. It was a joint application between Montgomery, Giles, Pulaski. Lisa Bleakley was involved with it. Steve Sandy was involved with it. And that was good news towards that front. I'll get that information out to the group, but it was good.
Yeah. So,
The agritourism.
other than that, I don't really have a whole lot to report. I've been busy, but I can't even remember what I did this morning, let alone for the last 2 weeks.
We've had a bunch of meetings.
We have had a bunch of meetings. So, at that, we'll adjourn.
Thank you.
Thank you.